Welcome back, and it is our final day of senior fall school. It's been great thus far. I know. But we have more surprises that will be coming up, though.
Good.
Even though our senior fall school is ending, we have something else planned too next month.
Oh, boy.
Yes, we do. And you two ladies especially will enjoy hearing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with our roll call. I am Deborah Jenkins. I'm the research assistant for the Paula J. Carter Center on Minority Health and Aging. And we will start with our roll call starting this time. I'm going to go in the order I normally go in, and hopefully Murphy's Law will not kick in again. We're going to start. So we're going to start with Southeast Missouri first. Let's start with Carruthersville. Good morning, Carruthersville.
Good morning.
Good.
Do you want them, are you ready for them to introduce themselves?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Okay, good morning, Adrienne Hunter Green.
I'm Sylvia Cook, Vice Morgan, Mary Paula.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you for being present this morning. Let's move up to Sykeston. Sykeston, are you connected? Maybe they can hear me, but obviously we may not can hear them. So let's keep it moving up to St. Louis. Good morning, St. Louis.
Good morning, Deborah.
All right, good. Yes, introduce yourselves.
Okay, this is
Joseph Turner.
okay, that's it.
We're still having somewhat of interference from your area, so hopefully it's the mic. Oh, yeah, it's the mic from that area. Thank you. We're going to move to Kansas City. Good morning, Kansas City.
Good morning.
All right, Kansas City, introduce yourself.
I'm in Arizona. New York, Colorado. King, Norman Newton, Kenworth.
Arthur Jackson Jr.
Is that everyone from Kansas City?
Yes, that's everyone.
All righty, thank you. Let's move to Jefferson City. Let's start with Miss Ashley Wells.
Hi, my name is Ashley Wells. I'm a student worker here at Paula J. Carter Center.
Maxine Gregory.
Would you speak louder?
Maxine Gregory.
Don Glover.
Veronica Taylor.
Carolyn Bell.
Connie Child. Lois Woodland.
Helen Williams.
And Miss Gail Williams, will you raise your hand, please? She is the new secretary. She has so many skills, it's phenomenal. For the Paula J. Carter Center, we're just so delighted to have her aboard. She's only been here 2 months, and thank goodness she's here. Thank you, Gail.
Addie Baker.
Oh, and Miss Florence is here. We missed you. As the kids would say, I'm kind of busting you out a little bit. I'm very happy to see you here today. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. And actually, as we were speaking, we are really from the same, as I call the neck of the woods, the southernmost part of the state, Southeast Missouri, the Boot Heel. And when we get an opportunity, we like to acknowledge that, because I think it's very important to people to acknowledge where they are really from, whether it's a rural area or an urban area. What I'm going to do, this is kind of in chronological order. Dr. Thomas Jefferson Cooper is number 12 of 12 children. He was born and raised on a farm near Hayti, Missouri. He is a 1965 graduate of Central High School in Hayti, Missouri, class of 1969 and 1970 graduate of Lincoln University of Missouri, and received his medical degree from the Medical School of the University of Missouri, Columbia. in 1978. His residency was also completed at MU Columbia in family and community medicine in 1981. Moving on, Dr. Cooper's military background consists of 2 years as Medical Service Corps officer after completion of ROTC at Lincoln University and served as medical company commander at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. His work experience consists of the following: Medical Director of Emergency Medicine at St. Mary's Hospital and Memorial Hospital from May 1981 until May 1983. Private practice in family and community medicine in Fulton, Missouri for 7 years. Emergency room physician at St. Mary's and Columbia Regional in Columbia, Missouri until retirement in April of 2005. In addition to cattle and grass farmer in Callaway County for greater than 22 years. Served on Lincoln University's Board of Curators for four years in the late 80s and currently is an assistant clinical professor in the family medicine department at the University of Missouri, Columbia. Dr. Cooper is enjoying retirement and being grandfather to 8 very busy children, ages 7 to 16 years old, and continues to operate a small farming operation with his lovely wife, Cheryl. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. Thomas Jefferson Cooper.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings and welcome, and I'm glad to be here to be a part of what's going on today. As I was driving into the center today, I couldn't help but notice the name Dr. Lorenzo Green. When we were in school here, I never had a class on Dr. Green, but he solved more arguments that we would have, where we would have spirited debates about things in history than any person at Lincoln University. What a place to be a part of, and what a place to be a part to come from. Same thing about my hometown, Haytown, Missouri. Recent years, you can tell from the introduction that I did it. I wrote it, so I tell a good story, but it's nothing other than what you see. You know, I was born good looking, and I'm just not going to say that. The truth is going to come out sooner or later, you know, whether you vote for me or not. I'm not running for anything. But anyway, I have been for the last 3 years an assistant clinical professor in the Department of Family Medicine at the university. And part of what I do is teach medical students. And what I do is I teach them something called Introduction to Patient Care. And Introduction to Patient Care teaches the medical students, from we get them on day one, how to talk to people, how to interview them, how to do physical examination, and then at the end of that year, how to correlate things that they've learned and to do a presentation. And from that, it's been a really good experience. The great experience in that made it very difficult for me to be here, not to be here, but for me to make a presentation to you this morning. Because normally I'm talking to doctors, those wannabe doctors and their life. But when I got the topic of today's presentation of what they had expected me to talk about, making healthy choices. Now, you know, obviously being a physician, I think I'll be in medicine, but I'm just a dude from Haytown. So I thought about making healthy choices as part of those was existing and living. And I learned as I was coming up that, you know, necessity was the mother of all inventions. And so being the 12th of 12 children, I learned how to be really, really slick, good, and reach across the table and get that last piece of meat and all that stuff. So I got to be a big boy. So when I asked that, I was asked, do I need to do something with PowerPoint? Well, you know, PowerPoint was not a good thing when I was coming up. So when I went to school and someone did that to you, you were in trouble. And that was a PowerPoint. And so the PowerPoints then were dealt with by either spanking you, putting you out, or telling your parents. And that was bad, any way it went. Because if my mother found out about it, that was worse than anything. If it was bad enough, she told Daddy. So I got it at school, Mom and Dad. So let us kind of get down to the point. Now what I wanted to do is, I was told that most of you guys were about my age, but I see that you're a little bit older. I'm 35 years old. And I see that you guys have reached that 55-mile marker, so I got to project what I'm talking about to when I get to be 55 years old. And healthy choices you think of, you know, what do I need to do to make me live longer or live better? And so those choices that we make are not all medical, but they all can be healthy for us. And so in this time that I'm going to spend with you, I could tell you that, and I will tell you this, I wrote down 3 little things. I wrote down the subject, making choices for a healthy future. I had it wrong. And then I wanted to tell you the 10 primary 10 causes, the first 10 in the list of things that cause people to die in America. The first one is heart disease. The second one is cancer. The third one is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The fourth one is stroke. The fifth one is accident. The 6th is Alzheimer's. The 7th is diabetes. The 8th is influenza. The 9th is kidney disease. And believe it or not, the 10th is suicide. Very interesting that we find it. Now, I didn't know that they would be in that order. But if you take what we have and you want to make healthy choices, you want to be able to negotiate each of these things in a way so that we will make good decisions about those. When we start thinking about suicide, we'll deal with that. But if we make healthy decisions, so part of it, my primary process today is to put you in charge of making your healthy choices. The thing that I've seen in my 35 years in America is that we like for people to tell us something to do, and we have become a dependent society. But when we came along, when I came along, you were dependent upon yourselves. You know, if you wanted to eat pig, you raised it. You cured it. If you wanted to eat beef, you raised it, and you processed it, and you cured it. And in those days, black people didn't have no refrigeration. So when you had beef, it was all corned beef. And so my parents ate a lot of corned beef because that's what my grandfather would tell them. So we would knock any old cow in the head and make corned beef out of them. You put them in the barrels and you go out there, and if some of you saw what corned beef looked like and what made us today, you wouldn't eat it. It'd be scum on it, it'd be everything. But when you take that baby out and cook it and put some cabbage around it, different story. We made healthy choices in all that we did. The foods that we eat, the first thing, the foods that you eat is a healthy choice. And what you learned in the first grade, you know, you eat from the 3 major groups. And nothing has changed much. And the choices that you make, you don't need a doctor to tell you this. All of you had this when you went to school. Every one of them, they told you, you know, you eat something from the vegetable group, the meat group, and then the green vegetable group. And that was a yellow vegetable and a white vegetable. And you ate as less stuff that grew in the ground as you did on top of the ground. So these are healthy choices. Now, how do they relate to making you live longer? We know now that heart attacks kill most of the people. And what makes heart attacks? Obese people, people who eat high-fat diets, and people who don't exercise. See, that wasn't a problem when you came along. See, you know, you didn't have a whole lot to eat. There was no refrigeration. Nothing got saved. Dogs got nothing. You had to eat what you had. And what was prepared for you, that was no question. If you didn't eat that, you didn't get it. Now, in my family, we were blessed. Because if you didn't make it to the meal, my mother always had something called Rex jelly, which is currant jelly, currant grape jelly, and peanut butter. Peanut butter came out of cans in those days. So when we opened up a can of peanut butter, it wouldn't keep too long because we had one in the refrigerator. But 12 boys, and not 12, 11 boys and a girl, we made short order of the Rex jelly and the peanut butter. So some of us who were lucky, we got a chance to eat that corned beef and the Rex jelly and peanut butter for those who didn't want a part of it. So to make you live longer, this old saying that you've heard, this cliche now, you are what you eat. The choices that you make are better. When you go to the store and you buy processed foods, you're buying a lot of salt, nothing wrong with salt, You're buying a lot of grain, nothing wrong with that, but you're spending a lot of money for those things. And you're doing what? You're getting a lot of fat in it, and that is clogging up arteries. Almost anything can do, but the main thing that you can do as a person is to eat healthy. Now, before I go any farther, so I'm telling you that food is going to be what you ought to eat, but there's a couple of little points that I've come across in my life. And one of those is a little quote that I got, and it came from one of the secretaries where I work. And it simply says, the true meaning of life is planting trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. Now think about that. That has a whole lot of metaphorical meanings and stuff. But at whatever stage you are, if you guys are 35 like me, or 55 like you are, you still need to plant a few trees. And so when you plant those trees, the best learning and teaching is by example. So when you set an example for your grandkids and for your kids, by eating proper and planting trees, you're telling them what to do to make life healthy for them. Now, and I would say cancer is a thing, and I know that some of you wanted me to tell you, what do I need to do for cancer screening? And I'm not going to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you this here. Get you a family physician, because each one of you are different. Some of you guys like to ride a Volkswagen. Some of you just like to ride. Some like to ride a ATV. Some like to ride a Cadillac. It doesn't make any difference. It's transportation. So you need to make it. But you, as an individual, need to be in charge of your health. You don't need no guy like me coming up and telling you that. You need to tell your doctor what you want. The other thing you need to know is you need to know about your family history. Now, just because I had a colonoscopy when I was 40, does that mean Dunny needs to have a colonoscopy when he's 40 years old? We all may want the same thing, but each of you are individuals. And when I practiced medicine, I treated you. As a matter of fact, I treated his brother, two of his brothers. As a matter of fact, your oldest brother was Nelson, your oldest brother, who worked right here, and John Wilton, the one who just recently passed away. And what we did is we always worked it out. I would always tell him. His brother John would have blood pressure problems. He would come in and I said, it's too high. And he said, well, do you need to change medicine? I said, no, you need to eat right. And you know what I'm trying to back off of that salt a little bit and push that pork back a little bit. Not because it's pork, but because you put more salt on it to eat it. And we lived, and I don't know how old Wilton lived, but I think Nelson died almost 90, didn't he? I think he's about 86. My doctor didn't have anything to do with it. You know who had something to do with it? Family history and Mr. Glover. Now listen, this young man, I can tell you about him. The boys, when they raised on the farm, they would have to spend nights when the corn got ready. When you stayed out in the woods, guess what would come and get it? The raccoons would come up there and get it. And his brother told me many nights that he would sit down there with the shotgun, the corn came up, he'd take care of that, and then this what they did to the coon that they got in. Ate him, you see? And so the word didn't get back to them coons, so they kept coming. Eating coons. Now that's what we had to do. I mean, that's what we had to do. So you ate healthy. You know, there's nothing wrong with that old coon eating that. But if you tell someone that now, I married a girl from Kansas City, a wonderful person, been with her now for, I'm 35 years old. I guess I got to be there 5. I've been with her a long time. But for her to eat it, the thought of eating a raccoon would be just almost. And then when I came along, and me and my boys, we used to get rabbits. Like this time of year when it be frosty, we used to get those rabbits and eat those baby rabbits. It's going to serve you very well. Then another tree that you need to plant is in telling your kids about what would kill them. Now, I mean, this is a healthy choice. This is planting a tree. So we're dying and we're suffering in this country, America, from obesity. Now, what is obesity? Obesity is over or normal weight for your height. No, 30% over what is a normal weight for you. And so when you become an obese person, you're opening yourself up to diabetes. If you happen to be my age, 35, and your waist size is 40, you have diabetes. See, I don't need to do a test on it, you just got diabetes. So what do you need to do? You don't need no doctor, you need to get your waist size down to what? 38. Do you see? You just need to do that. If you're a woman and you're approaching my age, you need to be less than 36 in the waist. Now listen, that is going to be healthy for you. So that is a healthy choice. The doctor don't make that choice, is left up to you. And then we looked at the third killer on the list was cancer. And then that cancer, and men, you know, lung cancer is the big killer. Now let me just tell you about lung cancer. Many years ago, some of you guys were told we need to get an x-ray every other year to make sure we don't have lung cancer. Let me tell you, waste of your money, waste of your time, and maybe be a part of what's wrong with some of us today. Because we got x-rays that we didn't need that wasn't going to do anything about you. Now you can get on the Google and Google anything to find out that the people in England, if they get tests, they live long and they live to do this here. Let me tell you this. If you get lung cancer, 35% of the people, 40% of the people with lung cancer came from what? Smokers. Sucking them cigarettes. So you can tell your kids the e-cigarettes, the A cigarettes, the B cigarettes, all of them. If you don't want to become the 40% of the people who are going to die from lung cancer. Now listen to this thing about cancer itself. Most people who get cancer, other than lung cancer, they die with the cancer, not from the cancer. Lung cancer is different. If you get lung cancer, guess what? You die as a result of lung cancer. So you can knock out 40% of your mortality and morbidity by knocking out those cigarettes. See, there's another thing, a healthy choice. Not only a healthy choice for you at your age, you know, if you're 55 or if you're close to my age, 35. Give those cigarettes up. Now listen at this here. If you have smoked and you can live out 15 years, your chances of dying from cancer or related illnesses to smoking is almost normalized. So you guys that are 55, you know, in 15 years, that would make you what? 70? See, you would be just like you never smoked before. Now that is not true. That is never true. Understand that's never true. Whatever happened to you, it stays with you. Just remember that. Whatever you've done wrong, there's no correcting it. But you don't have to do wrong anymore. It is never, my father used to say this to us all the time. It was 11 boys. And this would be about time he would be ready to do his capital punishment. Not capital, corporal punishment, not capital. Corporal punishment. And he would say this here, it is never too late to start doing what's right, or too early to stop doing what's wrong. So if you're doing stuff, you know, it makes no difference whether, as I said, if you're the 35 age group, if you're older. Whenever you stop doing those things that are causing you problems, then you brighten your future. And you don't need a doctor to tell you that. I bet each one of you in this room, I bet your parents, when you guys were behind the barn, for me behind the barn, rolling them cigarettes and smoking them, I bet you were told not to do that. I know you were told not to do that, but what did you do? You did just like I did. I smoked until 25 years ago. I got the coughing and I got diabetes and I got overweight. And then I said, you know, 15 years old, I better give these cigarettes up. And that's what I did. And I used to weigh over 300 pounds. And I decided that I needed to give it up. I didn't have to have no gastric bypass surgery, but I was in part of my training. I saw what was happening to people. And I saw that people were dying from diabetes and diabetes-related illnesses. Now, what is diabetes? Diabetes is probably one of the toughest conditions in the world today. And, you know, we said the first thing that happened to you is that you're going to have heart disease, then you're going to have cancer, then you're going to have stroke. Well, most of the vascular problems that we have in the country stem from those who have diabetes. So there again, if we can control our weight, control our eating habits, make healthy choices about that, then we'll do well. The other thing is you're doing it right here today. Continue to exercise your mind and your body. When you get out and come and participate in stuff, when you go out and you walk around, that exercise is good for you. That old story is true. Trust me. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that is a fact of life. Now, if you think I'm lying, you know, you see, I'm at 35. If I take a week I don't get up and move around. And then that next week I get up and get around and get up off of that tractor. I catch cramps, I catch everything. So when my wife says something, I'm already getting ready to go. See, because she gonna tell me to do something, so I just go out there and take the initiative and do it on my own, what I want to do, as opposed to being told what to do. Exercise, eating right, and health screening. Now, how do you do your health screening? Every person needs a family doctor. Now, I happen to have been trained as a family physician. But years ago, you were not family physicians, you were the family doctor. So, you became a doctor and you took care of families. Everybody needs a doctor that they can talk to. And if you can't talk to him and you can't ask him, and each of you should be treated as individuals. You know, what I do for Donnie, I don't have to do for Mr. Flowers. I don't do the same thing. You know, he may want a truck because he's at the sale barn and he's going around. He may want a Cadillac. They both don't need Cadillacs, now they both need trucks. You ask them, what do you need to have? And you tailor your care according to that. Now, another thing that is terribly important, especially for blacks. Now, some of us don't know our family history, and I'll be guilty of that. But on one part of my family history, I don't know about the black side. But on the white side of my family history, I know about it. Now, why is that? Why do you think that is? That's there for a reason. For everything that happened, there's a reason. My grandmother, 5 generations ago, came to this country unwillingly through Barbados. And she had a name called Granny Lett. And the parent of her, my great-great-grandfather was from the union of an Irish immigrant by the name of George Cooper, who met her. So I know about George Cooper. I know about his brothers. George, with Granny Lett, begot Tom Cooper, who was my grandfather's father. Tom Cooper then got a whole lot of Coopers, including Ellis Cooper, who was my grandfather. And then Ellis Cooper got Roy Cooper, who was my dad. And then here I am, and then I had my little family. So I know about the white side, but all I know about my grandmother is she was called Granny Lett. And I haven't made the efforts that I maybe should have, but I can tell you that I know about that side. Now, it's just the opposite on my mother's side of the family. Now, you need to know not only about your family, but your family history. Now, when you know your family history, if everybody in your family lived to be 90 years old, so you worry about comfort items, keeping comfortable, making healthy choices, and doing what you need to do to keep living. Now, the doctor ain't gonna make it any different, because listen at this, life is a terminal condition. Not a one of you, nowhere on this earth, gonna get out of here living. You sure gonna die. Now that's just what it is. So whatever I do to you, whatever you eat, you surely gonna die. And if you don't think that you are an evolutionary process, just look at you. Now you guys are 55 years old. Can you remember when you were 10? Can you think? Can you remember that? If you can't remember that, Alzheimer's was number 9. We have a natural tendency to forget stuff. And so you think that you are an evolutionary process. You always have time to do right. You can change all of the time. Now, now Florence back here will have some problems. Every time I used to write something, she used to complain about my writing. Anyway, I found that she just wanted to call, working and say something to me. And I may be the case now. I can't read this. I can't read this. I said, how you know I wrote it? It was Larry Slaughter, Dr. Slaughter. Everybody, it's either Cooper or Slaughter. Neither one of them learned how to write. So I tried all I could to get better, and that's what we should do. The healthy choices that you will make will be eating right, living right, exercising right, knowing your history, and you helping a doctor help guide you to where you want to go. Now, you can't ask that doctor to make me live forever, because that ain't going to happen. If that's your expectation, it would be just like Barack Obama is going to make this world a better place. It just ain't going to happen. You're not going to find a doctor to make it better. And if there's a change that needs to be made, you, as an individual, can make that change. You can plant a tree anytime. You may not sit under that shade, but your kids and your grandkids may sit under that tree. I don't know how my time is going, But anyway, I haven't gotten down to the 3 of those processes on the thing that you keep going. I can keep going. And I don't even know if it's worth it. But you should be empowered through yourself. If you sit in a room by yourself and you're unhappy, you got some problems now. If you ain't happy with who you with in the room and you it, that's a problem. Let's think about that. Now, if there's someone else in that room and you're not happy, it may not be you. It may not be the other person. But if you're going to make it better, you got to learn how to deal with that person who's in that room with you. That's the other thing. We're going to have to learn how to live with our friends and our neighbors. It is important. And I can tell you, I know this here from when I look at Brother Glover there. We counted on our neighbors when we would come along. We didn't go anyplace, but when we would go someplace, our neighbors would milk our cows for us, get our eggs, feed the dogs for us. And when they would go someplace, we would do the same thing too. Now, was there black, white, and brown people in those days? It absolutely was. But let me just tell you something. Necessity changes all of that. Love changes all of that. You will be a better person if you start by loving yourself and loving your neighbor. Now let me this is a healthy choice. Now, you may not believe it is, but it's a healthy choice. Not only do I want you to live a long time, but I want you to be happy. And when you're going in this life and you choose happiness and you go looking for happiness someplace, you're not going to find it. Happiness is within you. Trust me. If you can't be happy with yourself, and you can't explore yourself to be happy, you're not going to get it. So that's another happy choice. That's another healthy choice. Learn to live with yourself. Learn to be yourself. And it's what she said that I'm from Southeast Missouri. And I'm not even from Southeast Missouri. I am from Southeast Missouri, but I'm from a little place close to Haytown, Missouri. It's called Ingram's Ridge. It's the foothill of the Ozarks. And they call us country boys. We didn't have no problem at all. We learned on the country. Every time somebody wanted to do that, we didn't do it. We just loved them. When they wanted to fight, we whipped them. That's how you do it. So, we just know. You deal with what you got to do. My job is not to change you. It's your job to change you. It's your job. If your waist is 40 and you want to not have diabetes, you drop it down to 38. And there's a chance that you won't have it. And when your kids see you planting that tree of working and doing and being self-sufficient, what do you think they're going to do? They'll have something to follow. They'll have something to follow. Now, the bad disease, diabetes. I was blessed with diabetes. Now, you can look at me and tell me how sweet they are, but anyway, I was blessed with diabetes. That's what you caught a long time ago, sugar. Boy, is it ever the nemesis of every human being that walks. You don't have to be overweight to have it, but if your weight's got this over. Diabetes causes everything. It magnifies everything. It's just like putting a magnifying glass over everything. Those people who have strokes, you'll look and see, 70% of them may have diabetes. Or they'll have high blood pressure. Or they'll have elevated triglycerides. Now, what are triglycerides? And what are chylomicrons? That's that stuff you get when you eat that pig foot. When you eat that fat meat. But, there ain't nothing wrong with having that every now and then. There's nothing wrong with having some nice ice cream every now and then. But your diet should be 40% protein, 40%, I'm almost like those politicians, and 20%, I get that other 40% protein, 40% fat, and 20% carbohydrate. And so that's what a standard diet, that's what we found that the people in the world who live long, like the group of people in Russia, and they have a big glass of vodka, 1 glass of vodka every day. Now, does everybody there drink a glass of vodka? No, those who can stand it. Is that getting close? Those who can stand it. So, if you don't like vodka, you can be innovative and you can turn that over to brandy or whatever you want to do. But you need to do those things to empower yourself. But you are in charge of your health. No doctor, no lecture series, no instructor is in charge of you like you are. Now, I was troubled because I wanted to come here and to give you some statistics about If you got a chest x-ray, every 1,000 people who get an x-ray will find a cancer. 7 out of every 1,000. Now listen to this. So 7 out of every 1,000. That's less than a half a person per 100, right? So you'll save by getting a chest x-ray every year, a half of a person every year. And will that person be happier? Will that person be any better off than that? He's gonna die in it because he's still sucking them cigarettes. He may be still doing that, and that's his choice. The choice is just yours to make. And your choice is to make those choices that'll make you healthier. Now, finding doctors is a problem. I'm gonna just finding doctors that you can talk to. It's a real problem. And finding doctors you can afford. And that's why I had to quit practicing medicine, because the doctors do charge a little bit. I practiced medicine, and when I was practicing medicine, it was $18.50 to come and visit me. And I spent as much time as I needed with that patient when they come in to see him. My wife goes to the doctor now, and she spends 15 minutes in there. It's $125. And I'm not complaining about them, but something ain't right. So if something ain't right when it's that way. When I started taking insulin 35 years ago, a vial of insulin was $8. Now a vial of insulin is $75. With all of the technology that we have, the same one that I took, the same little 10 cc bottle that I took then, and all of the progress we are making. So we need to do what? We need to tell somebody. 2 days ago, people were told something when we went to vote. And the message out of that election was that we're not happy with what's going on. It don't make no difference who you are, we're not happy with them. Now, I got a brother who is 84 years old, and he told me, he said, those guys that are running this country need to go over and get on the front line of ISIS. I'm not that kind of person, because the person who needs prayer is the one who's having the most problems. I think they need prayer, you know what I mean? I think they need to be in front of everybody going over there, but I think that we need to pray for them. But I think, now listen to this, I think that you will do better knowing that you are driving your bus. Now watch this, a common sense thing. When you're on a bus, who's driving the bus? Yeah. You can be noisy, you can be in the back, but the person who's in charge is a bus driver. You are the bus driver for your health, your happiness, and making better choices as you go forward. Don't lean on nobody. All of those little simple things, I said it to you easily today. I'm actually 68 years old. And, but that's that problem with Alzheimer's. That's number 9 on the list. That might change back when I go back on that. But let me just tell you something. You have to make those healthy choices. And I know that on my side of the family. I know that who has diabetes. The big people who have diabetes, first of all, is overweight people. Then black people. Then Hispanic people. Those are the ones who have diabetes. So if you're born Hispanic, you can't change that. Do you see? But you can stop being a fat Hispanic. And you can stop being a fat black person. Or you can stop eating that lollipop or that Snickers that you like so much every day and eat it once a month. So you are in charge of yourself. Let no man, let nobody tell you that. And let me just tell you a little story that I believe Benjamin Franklin is the author of this quote. I don't know that, but it's just something that I've been around. And it simply says this, and this was part of why I decided to have such an informal gathering with such wonderful people who may see the world as I have seen, or may have been a part of it, is that you tell a person something, they'll forget it. If you teach a person, they'll remember it. But if you involve that person in it, they'll learn. So my job here today is not to tell you nothing, but to get you involved in taking care of yourself. If you got a doctor that you can talk to him, ask him a question. If he can't, then search for another. You see, he'll get his money from someplace else. And that's what it is. And when it comes time to go back to vote, if you don't like what happened at this time, then you go vote. And I have relatives who worked the polls this time. They had less than half of the people voted this time than they did in the last election. So, and you mad? What the hell you mad for? You didn't vote. You know what I mean? You ain't changing nothing. You weigh 500 pounds, cigarette hanging on your mouth, and telling everybody else what to do. It just doesn't work. I've enjoyed it. I hope you get something, but if there's one thing you get out of it here, you are in charge of your health. No doctor's in charge of your health. You are. You'll make those choices, and it starts by being what you eat. If you eat well, you'll do well. If you live and you love, you'll do well. The joy you give is the joy you'll get. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I'll entertain some questions.
Let's start with Southeast Missouri Carruthersville's office. Do you have any questions for Dr. Cooper?
No questions, thank you.
Sykeston.
No questions in Sykeston. No questions, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you, I can hear you.
Someone has a question, and I'm prepared to give you such as it is an answer.
What side are you from? Is it St. Louis? Okay, St. Louis.
If all sickness and disease come because of the curse, can it be reversed?
First of all, let me answer this by saying, I'm not sure what curse you're talking about. But if it is something that you're inherited with and you're born with, you have to learn how to live with it and manage it. There's no cure for diabetes. There's no cure for people who have some like ALS. They're born with that because that's within the family. A bunch of the muscular dystrophies that people have. And they're inherited in certain ways that we can't do. But what can be done is that early on in life, there are tests that we can use to detect. And now we have technology where we can inject and alter things or make them better. But if you want to call it the curse, if you want to call it inheritance, if you're born with it, it's very hard to get rid of it. If you're born black and think you're going to die white, that's a problem. I hope that may shed some light on your question.
Any other questions from St. Louis?
No.
All right, let's move to Kansas City. Kansas City.
No questions, but Dr. Cooper, we really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you very kindly. I appreciate it. And you don't know how much I enjoy being here. And I haven't had a chance. I was taught by people informally far more than I was by those formally. And I choose not to put all of the technology into whatever I do. I actually don't even bring anything but a pen, and it may not even write, to tell you the things that I have learned in this life. Thank you very kindly. I've enjoyed it.
Jefferson City, do you have any questions?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
The percentage that you gave us for the diet, the protein, the fat, and the carb, is that for diabetics also, or just regular?
Standard had that under Miss Adolphus Mays in the 3rd grade. 40, 40, 20. Now, if you go to your doctor, and I say, I don't want you to remember, but I really appreciate this question. Because I don't want to give her anything to remember, but I want to give her some guidelines. If you have diabetes, they may make some modifications of that. Just like you may choose to have a Lexus, and I may choose to have a Ford. Both of them are automobiles, but one of those are tailored for you, while an old Ford would be tailored for me. But it may be tailored different, but the standard diet was 40, 40, 20.
Any other questions from Jefferson City?
You touched on exercise very briefly, but are there any certain exercises that a person do at different age brackets, or that's what all the body can stand?
Let me tell you something, another very good question. I expect that from Don. And I expect him to ask me what my cattle are doing too. But anyway, let me just share with you. You do what you can do, but understand this, that walking a mile 3 times a week, 30 minutes of continuous exercise walking 5 times a week is enough for the average person. Now, what is an average person? That is a person who is 6 foot tall and weighs 180 pounds. So if you're a little bit over that, you may need to do a little bit more. But if your knees are problematic, then you can make some adjustments by eating less and doing a little more the yoga, those type of yoga, not yoga, yoga, and those type of exercises. But it needs to be an exercise that'll increase your heart rate by at least, I think it's 40%. So if you got a resting heart rate of 60, you need to get it up to 100. And so, if you're walking to do that, if it don't take much to do that. Now what I do, I don't have an exercise program, but I got 400 acres of fence, and I walk that in a year. Sometimes I walk down, sometimes I walk back. But a mile like that is more than a mile on the road with some nice Nike shoes on. But you gotta have that stuff, and you gotta watch what you're stepping in. So the answer is walking or some continued physical exercise that will increase or stimulate the heart to by 40%, 5 times a week will do it. Thank you.
I'll be brief. You touched on joy, you touched on love, but I think joy and just speaking to someone or going to volunteer helps a lot in the area of depression. I know a lot of older people are depressed, and it's very sad to me that some people remain in that state for a long time. And just touching someone or speaking to someone helps so much.
In my teaching in medicine now, now when you go to the doctor very rarely touches you. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to put his hand on you, but being in contact. But you go to the doctor now, what do they do? Do I need to say anything? No. And you just don't feel like you've been touched. And let me just tell you something, you just don't feel like you've been touched. Now, I gotta say this because I see him all the time, but I'll go up to the cell barn. I say, "Cool, you still teaching? The hell you teaching them doctors? They can't see nothing. They don't look at you." And that's what I get from everybody out there. I go to the doctor, I say, "Well, listen, man, we teach them how to do them computers. You old farmer gonna be all right anyway." But this is the thing, and that's what it is, and you're absolutely right. When you are engaged, that's that thing that Ben Franklin said, tell me something, I forget it. Teach me something, I remember it. Engage me with it, and I learn it. And you're right. When you have at old age, just to know that someone is doing the same thing that you're experiencing. And then to get their feedback from what they're doing is important.
Or to give yourself.
No question about it. No question about it. And that same thing with happiness. You don't look for someone for happiness. Happiness is within you. You will feel better when you're doing things. Feel much better. I feel better being here. Now my wife tells me that for me to drive over here, there's been some people made unsafe. Now I won't but she has to do with my sin. And anyway, all of you guys look good to me. You look like you're 55 years old. And I know that's wrong. But anyway, but it's what I see is what counts. Okay, no doubt about it. I really enjoy the questions because they're just, and that was another thing, making a preparation for this group, and any group, is for me to give you some information that you can use. If you leave here and you didn't get nothing that Cooper didn't give you that you can use, then the thing of it is, you know what Cooper told you? Use yourself. You see, don't worry about what I got to say. You know what I mean? I'm gonna back out there and hope ain't nobody right in front of me stop in a hurry. So don't worry about that, nobody. But that's what it is. But it's fun, and I enjoy life every minute. There's an old saying.
We have another question from St. Louis. Could you break down the 40-40-20 for us again, please?
Yes, ma'am. I sure will. Now, this is old. Remember, I'm 35, and I knew that when I was in the first grade. 40% carbohydrate, no, 40% protein.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yes, ma'am. Forgive me.
Okay.
40% protein, 40% fat, 20% carbohydrate. I was taught that when I was in Miss Adolphus May's class, the 3rd grade. That hasn't changed. Now for every individual, that's a basic. It's just like the basic mode of transportation, you got them. Feet, that's the basic transportation. But if you want to make that better, you move to a bicycle. You move to a skate. Now at your age of 35, I'd be careful about a skateboard. But anyway, that's what the 40-40-20 basically meant. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more question from St. Louis.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your thoughts on plant protein opposed to animal protein?
Now you would ask the farmer that. And let me just tell you this here. My favorite meat now is beef. But when I came up, it was chicken and pork. So now my thought process is going to be, I am what I eat. And when I die, I'm going to have more animal protein in me than I am going to have vegetable protein in me. Now is that better? I'm not exactly sure. But it's that same thing. I was born that way, and I'm probably going to die that way. I'm happier that way. Now, I got a granddaughter that I eat a soy burger with once a month. I don't want to eat hamburgers with her, but once a month, because I just don't like soy burgers. So I am an animal protein person, and unless you have kidney disease, I'm not sure if the type of protein makes a difference. But if you have kidney disease, how you excrete proteins is important. I hope that shed some light on the situation.
Any other questions from the satellite locations? Any other questions from Jefferson City? Mr. Flowers.
I have a comment. I really appreciate Dr. Cooper, what he said about your doctor. I've experienced many doctors who didn't tell me what was wrong, treated me as if I couldn't understand, I wasn't intelligent, but I quickly changed those doctors. I don't stay with them. Yeah. But I appreciate your down-to-earth attitude and speaking to us as if we're intelligent, which we are. And I really learned an awful lot from your presentation. I really appreciate what you did. Thank you.
Let me share with you, thank you very, very kindly, but every encounter I have, I'm like Mother Teresa. I feel better after the encounter than I did before I got there. So that'll just say it itself. I appreciate that. And then, I can't answer all questions. My father used to say, nobody knows enough. And he was the smartest person I've ever known. And he said he didn't know enough. So that put everybody else and me kind of in that line.
Would you tell them about that high school you attended in Charleston, I believe it was?
Haytown, Missouri.
Oh,
Haytown, Missouri, yes. Haytown, Missouri, the high school there was named Central High School. Now, let me just tell you something. That's what it was planned to be in the area when I came up. It's a bigger story than that. And Dr. Lorenzo Green plays a big role in us having a school there. There was a demonstration, I believe, in the 30s, the first roadside demonstration in the United States. And Dr. Green, and there was a little community that was developed in the Poplar Bluff area as a result of that. At the time, blacks were not allowed to go to any schools. And so most of the schooling took place in churches and the like. And in the whole southeast Missouri area, there were 4 high schools. Sykeston had a high school, Poplar Bluff had a high school, Cape had a high school, Caruthersville, and Hermondale, Missouri. But where Haytown was centrally located, and the blacks there wanted to get a high school there. And the very first principal that we had at the high school there was a graduate, a 1938 graduate of Lincoln University. His name was Carl Clunner. He came there, it was a 9-year school, and he took it to a high school. So the first graduating class was 1942. And I believe the last one was 1968. And then it decided we need to integrate and make a change. I'm not saying that that made a difference, but if it hadn't been for that, and the school was called Haiti Negro School, but when it was slated to be built, it was built in the black community and the white community, wanted to be called Central School, because kids came from Kennett, Missouri, Goblin, Missouri, Wardell, Missouri, all of the little towns, even Sykeston. You know, they stayed in the Sykeston district, they were close to Haiti. They came to school there, and so that's why it became Central High School. And I had the privilege of having at one time 95% of the teachers that were there were from Lincoln University, and they were teachers. I benefited greatly from them, no doubt about it. And then just to say this here, because I know about Brother Flowers, we had Mr. Otto Bradford, a graduate here, was the very first music instructor we had, and he came from there. And then we had Warren Swindell and Doris Claw, and I had the privilege of learning to play instruments under all of those guys. Sure did. But it was a great experience. It really was a great experience. And being here with you rekindles that. Just driving up in this thing, I feel better. You see? If I make it back home without having a wreck, I'll even feel better. Yeah, I knew that was coming. But anyway, I enjoyed it. And listen, you are people. Don't ever let nobody tell you. Henry Ford said something. And I just, I like these people. I drive a Ford truck too. If you think you ain't nothing, you ain't nothing. And that's what he said. If people think you ain't nothing and you believe them, you ain't nothing. That's Henry Ford. So, who cares? I don't care what nobody think about me. When I look in that mirror, I know I don't see well. I know I'm just looking. I'm about 35 years old again. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Please join me in a round of
We'll make sure I get in front of him. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Do I need to stay for anything?
No, sir, but
Dr. Cooper, I have a book I want you to see, a 1928 yearbook from Lincoln University that would have that principal's name in it.
Now let me just tell you something. In 1928, there was a gentleman named Thomas Jefferson Cooper that graduated from here. He was in the class with Charles Howard. 1920, that's my Uncle Tom.
Well, I have the book in Maggie's office. I want you to see that.
That is absolutely amazing. Now, he may have done like me. I came here, I was supposed to graduate in 69, but I didn't graduate in 69. I did complete all of my stuff, but I was in secondary education. I did my teaching in elementary education. So I had to do, practice teaching. So I didn't march until then. But anyway, that's what it was. But I ain't mad about that too. I enjoyed every minute of it.
actually, Dr. Cooper, part of your presentation when you're talking about happiness is a great segue into an announcement that I have to make. And the announcement is we're going to have a lunch and learn next month, and it's going to be on how to raise your spirits. It will be here at the South Campus building, and the speaker will be Mr. James M. Smith. He is the mental health counselor for Lincoln University. So on December the 17th from 10 to 12, we will have a presentation, lunch and learn, on how to raise your spirits. And we will also have a light, healthy lunch. At this time, it is time to say goodbye. And I hope you all have enjoyed our senior fall school thus far. So let's start with our Southeast Missouri participants, our friends and colleagues, Carruthersville. Goodbye, Carruthersville. Thank you for joining. Bye. Sykeston. Goodbye, Sykeston. All right, great. St. Louis. Goodbye, St. Louis. Goodbye. Kansas City. Goodbye, Kansas City. Bye. Well, at this time, this concludes our senior fall school. Goodbye, Jefferson City.
Thank you.